Alright, coming at you tonight with, I didn't have supper. I had Moscato and Sprite instead. Because I had a late lunch. It was at like 2, so I just never got hungry and I started drinking. I was like, this is enough. But today I have for you a reading wrap-up. I decided that I should probably do this because, I'm so behind on reading wrap-ups in all my videos. I don't even post half the time. That's what I guess having a full-time job will do to you, like a real person job, like not just drive 5 minutes to get up some pizzas. I gotta like grade papers and shit. So I'm way behind. I've got some time right now. Steven's at work. Books 121 through 125. Here we go. I read these back in like August, and it is currently Christmas break, so we'll see how much I remember. But first up, we've got a Warrior Cat book. We've got Squirrelflight's Hope by Erin Hunter. I am currently now no longer rereading. I started out rereading. The Warrior Cat series is a series that I really enjoyed as a little kid. They were like my favorite. And so a couple years back, actually 2 years ago at this point, I decided I wanted to reread the series and kind of vlog my experiences. I have been doing that. I'm past the point where I went as a kid. I mean, this book came out in 2019. That was last year. So I didn't read this one as a child because I was not a child. I was 22 years old. So I've been, reading them and vlogging my experiences. I did lose a couple of vlogs in the great computer crash of right after I graduated college, but I do have, I think, this clip at some point. I don't fucking know. But this is a super edition following Squirrelflight and her issues with her fucking suckish mate slash leader, because apparently even before he got possessed, I'm gonna take this out because my face looks chubby. Even before he got possessed, Bramblestar was a big old dick bag. So that's mostly this. It talks. We meet the sisters for the first time, who come across very pleasantly in here, as it is told by a she-cat. But then when you go and you read Tree's Roots, they come off also as dick bags. So it was interesting. It did make me appreciate Leafstar for the first time in a while, which is interesting because I don't care for SkyClan very much, but this one, she was okay. It was a decent one. It wasn't my favorite super edition, but I mean, it wasn't a bad one by any means. It was far from my least favorite. So I think I gave this one about a 4 out of 5 stars. It was decent. I do like the cover. I like how grand it is. All the super editions also have really cool undercovers under the dust jacket. Very pretty. So yeah, I read that one. Then I reread a book to teach it. That is Fahrenheit 451 by Bradbury. This was not in the book wall, so I didn't get to erase anything from the book wall list. This was a book that I bought this edition after I read it for high school, and then I reread it to teach it to my sophomores. Yeah, sophomores. This is, the classic dystopian novel. It is not about censorship, goddammit. It's about the dumbing down of society. This is something that I am very passionate about. This book is not about censorship. It is not. It's not about that. It's about how society dumbs itself down and censors itself. It's not about a great big government overreach. It's not about that. It's about, like, if Raeder Bradbury could, I filmed a video where I talk about this a lot, but, like, if Raeder Bradbury could see, like, the YouTube videos and fucking TikTok, if Raeder Bradbury could even conceive that TikTok would be a possibility, he would like set himself on fire. Like, this is about how TV pretty much dumbs down society. It's a fantastically written book. I fucking adore Fahrenheit 451. I love how it's written. I love some of the things it says, especially everything that Captain Beatty says is just so well done, and I love it a lot. I mean, obviously you got the issues in there of like, not nice to his female characters, but sometimes you just gotta overlook that, Sometimes when you're reading classic literature, you just go in for the fucking gorgeous prose and its anti-stupidity message, and you're just like, yeah. 5 out of 5 stars. I love Fahrenheit 451. Then I read a Clive Barker book. I read Weaveworld by Clive Barker. I will say, I think this is my least favorite Clive Barker book that I've read so far. It's a lot more fantastical than horror-y, and I mean, all of his books have been fantastical. They've all had very big fantastical elements, but they've always been a little bit more, more Lovecraftian than, what have I read that's fantastical? I don't know, Lewis Carroll? I've never even read Alice in Wonderland, but this one, like I said, it had a lot more of those fantasy elements than the horror elements. And one of the things I adore about Clive Barker is obviously the writing style, but how that writing style lends itself to gore. It is beautiful and disgusting in all the right ways. And there wasn't as much of that in this one. There was obviously, I mean, there was like there was, you know, some dire straits that these people found themselves in and creatures, but it just, I don't know, it didn't hit me in the same way that The Great and Secret Show or The Inhuman Condition did. Like, this isn't going to be my favorite book of 2020, which is kind of sad. I don't even think it's going to be in the top 11 or whatever the hell I do. Like, it was okay. Like, okay, so quick synopsis, I guess. I should give a synopsis of this book. This is the story of this carpet, and this carpet has this like mystical world in it, and there's this whole like kind of backstory history to this world, and people want this world, and they want to destroy this world, and they want to set free this world. There's a whole thing. And so this young woman's aunt or grandmother or something dies, elderly female relative dies, and she ends up going to kind of check things out, and then there's this carpet that she gets drawn to, and then there's this other guy who just kind of is there, I guess. That's kind of his whole thing. He's just kind of there. He's kind of like drifting through life kind of deal. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, Clive Barker has such a fantastic writing. Like, I would die for Clive Barker's writing style, you know, like, it's fantastic. And it is a gorgeous book. Like, I'm not getting rid of it or anything, just because I just want just a complete set of Clive Barker's books, because even if this wasn't my favorite Clive Barker book, I mean, it's still a Clive Barker book, so I still, like, gave it 5 stars and stuff. But it was just a little bit disappointing after The Great and Secret Show, which absolutely captivated me, and The Inhuman Condition, which, as a short story collection, was my favorite book of the year when I read it. So it was just, like, compared to other Clive Barker books, it's probably, like, a 3, but compared to, like, all the other books in the world, it's still a 5 stars, you know? But I did read this one. Then I read a book on my Kindle. I read Unteachable by Leah Raeder, or Elliot Wake. I'll put a picture of the cover up here. So I did buy Kindle a while ago because, I mean, like, I like it. I think I mentioned, like, I live with my boyfriend, Steven. He moved in when the pandemic closed down dorms in March, because he's still a college student, and he just never left because I love him. But one of the times that we spend time together is at night, when especially after he comes home from work. If I don't work the next day, because when I get up at 5:45, I mean, I'm not gonna stay up until 3 in the morning. But what I would do, I mean, like, I'd be sitting there and, like, we talk and stuff like that, and then eventually, you know, he turns on his PS5, and I just sit on my phone. So then I got a Kindle, so, like, well, I can at least be reading at this point, and then I get caught in these awful fucking books. I didn't hate Unteachable, okay? I just hate the book I'm reading right now. It's Mercy by Jodi Picoult, and I want to fucking kill myself. But Unteachable. So I read Black Iris years ago. I want to say, like, the summer of 2015. I read Black Iris, and I loved it. Like, I think it was my favorite book the year I read it. And I'm pretty sure that was 2015. Or maybe 2016. I think it was 2015. And it was just Leah Raeder. I'm gonna keep calling him the author Leah Raeder, because I'm not entirely sure what happened with that whole thing. Like, this author was such a huge part of the new adult community. Like, I'll go with Elliot Wake. I'll just keep saying the author. I believe he's a transgender man. I don't know the details. But he was such a huge kind of personality in the young adult community, and part of that is because he writes these amazing books. Like, his prose is, like, it's kind of purpley, I guess, but it's just so well done. It's, like, kind of on the same level, not on the same level, but in the same vein as Clive Barker, where it's very well described, except for Wake does just, his use of metaphor is phenomenal. But then, like, something happened, and, like, so Wake came out, published one more book. I think he published, like, 3 or 4 books under Leah Raeder. Published one more book, and then just kind of disappeared. And, like, he was putting his whole transition thing online, and I don't know what happened. Like, there was some whole scandal, I don't know. But Unteachable. So I hate student-teacher romances. I have always hated them, and now as a teacher, I still hate them, because, okay, so I do not understand how as a teacher, you can look at these like 16-year-olds eating paper and snorting hand sanitizer and think, that's hot. Like, that's fucking disgusting. Like, and don't even say like, oh, well, this is a male teacher, female student. They did like, no, the girls are just as gross as the guys. I can guarantee you that they are just as disgusting. So I've never liked the teacher-student relationship trope. I never have. I thought it's always squicked me out. It's always been gross. Unteachable writes it in a way that I did not hate myself reading it. Like, it was still like kind of gross whenever they would have sex, but the author is so good at writing sex and so good at just writing in general that I could kind of be okay with it. Did not hurt that I believe the main character was 18. Or she turned 18. I don't know. It wasn't technically statutory rape, I don't think, for at least most of it. So that's good, I guess. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Because it's one of my least favorite tropes, like, in general, ever, is the teacher-student relationship. It's disgusting and it's creepy. But I didn't hate it in Unteachable. I thought it was pretty good. And honestly, the author is very good at writing sex scenes. I mean, somebody who kind of grew up on fan fiction, like, that's most of the time it's you can kind of tell that the author probably also kind of grew up wetting his teeth for writing sex on fan fiction, because that's kind of what it reminded me of, and it wasn't awful. You know, it was pretty good. It was pretty well written. You know, I've got to say, like, it was, I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. If not 5, I gave it 4. I do want a physical copy of this book. I want a physical copy of all of Elliot Wake's books. I don't know where my copy of Black Iris went. It might be in there. I should check. I've got a spreadsheet of all the books that I own and have read too. I'm spreadsheet crazy, but I don't know where it is. It's not on these shelves, but I haven't shelved all my books that I've read yet because I'm out of shelves. Shelf space. I've got three if you count this little box as a shelf too. But yeah, I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. If I didn't give it 5, I gave it 4. It was. If you're looking for some good fucking new adult erotica, you gotta read your Elliot Wake. Look up Leah Raeder, because that's where most of his books are published under. Black Iris was my favorite book of 2015, I want to say. I don't know if Unteachable is going to be on the list, mostly because of the plot, but it's not bad. And then I reread another book to teach it. This one was to teach to 7th graders, and that's The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I do enjoy this book. I know S.E. Hinton gets a lot of shit because she's like an old woman and people keep going to her on Twitter and be like, your characters are gay, and she goes, no, they're not gay, even though they're pretty fucking gay. But I read this to teach to 7th graders, and honestly I will say my 7th graders are just, they're such a discussion focused class. They're so good at discussions. They're so like good at staying pretty much on task even when it comes to discussing what we're discussing, and they really enjoyed this book. They liked the second book that they read, which was about the Holocaust, more because they're just Holocaust crazy. But The Outsiders, this was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. I never actually read it in 7th grade, but I did read it before 7th grade, because this is one of the books that I would finish and start immediately over again. I think I read it when I was like 10 or 11. And this one makes it easier to do that because it starts with the same paragraph that it ends with, so it's like, oh, I guess I better just turn back to the start. But I enjoyed it again rereading it. As I reread this book, I mean, like, it's a good book. It's not my favorite Hinton book. I do think that Hinton does a really good job at kind of capturing emotion, and this is a book that does stick with kids. I mean, I had an 8th grader write a book report where he reread it and he just really loved it, and it really affects kids because it's like it is more, I mean, it's a little bit edgy, and even now it's a little bit edgy for a book that you read in school even. I don't know, because it's not difficult to understand. S.E. Hinton wrote it when she was a teenager, and it's just, I mean, it's very teenager. It's very good for teenagers, especially the younger ones. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I think it's a good book, and it's a very good movie adaptation too, which I have not watched in a while. But yeah, I do enjoy it. I mean, I think I gave it 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. Again, don't quite remember. These are books plus Unteachable. These are books 121 through 125 that I have read. That is all for today. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.